Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. While I'm on this tedious journey, I want Jesus to walk with me. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand while I'm on this tedious journey. I want Jesus to walk with me. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Thank you all. Thank you to Pastor Maurice Wright and the New Life Worship Center family for hosting this evening's program. And y'all excuse me, but I like to say that when I stand before anybody, having the privilege to stand before you, I like to have some notes, so y'all excuse my notes. But especially to a committee on the move for thinking enough of me to have me on as your guest speaker tonight. And I won't hold you all long. I just want to, again, thank everybody, to my parents for being here. My husband is probably, thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you for your support. I feel like everybody in here is family. So thank y'all so much for braving the cold and coming out on tonight just to hear little old D. Mosley. My husband is probably walking through the door from work. And my children, as Minister Angie said, they are in their respective places, and they wanted to be here tonight. They planned to be here, but Mama kicked in, and it's cold. The weather is planning they saying it's projecting to get bad, so y'all stay where you're at. We gonna go on and be all right. But it is indeed an honor to culminate this day with you, standing before you briefly as we continue to celebrate the man in the person of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and who he was. We celebrate his life, his legacy, and his service as we look to this moment. And I'm already in my message today, because as I said, I'm not gonna hold you, but as we look to this moment to continue to use his words to uplift, encourage, and inspire us to continue to pick up the baton and finish the race, because after all, we still dream. Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches, particularly his I Have a Dream speech, still resonates today because his messages continue to address timeless truths of inequality, injustice, and the pursuit of a shared dream for a better future, because after all, we still dream, and they will remain relevant, his speeches, his words, his sermons, that is, as long as systematic racism and inequalities persist, urging people to continue the fight for social change, reminding us of the power of truth, because you see, after all, truth speaks. No matter if it's 1960 or 65 years later, we still dream. Dr. King is quoted as saying, as the young man at the podium said earlier, and it did my heart well, it warmed my heart to hear him quoting Dr. Martin Luther King when he said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward, because after all, we still dream. To further elaborate on why his words still echo through the spans of time and eternity as we look to continuously advance forward, again, we must ask ourselves, why does Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's words still have such profound power? Why does it even still matter? Well, my brothers and sisters, I stand before you having adopted and revised, if you would allow me, Dr. King's own words as if he was speaking to us from the perspective of the issues that plague us today. If you would allow me to speak to the urgency of now. Here is the answer of why his words will ever remain relevant, timeless, and true. Because we still dream. We find ourselves standing at a crossroads today, still grappling with the shadows of systematic inequity. Not just based on the color of our skin, but on our gender, on our zip codes, and on our beliefs. While progress, yes, has been made, it still feels like the more steps we take to get ahead, the further behind we get pushed to the back of the bus. So the fierce urgency of now demands that we confront the injustices that persist in our communities, in our society, in our institutions, and yes, in our hearts. We still dream. We dream of a nation where all of our children, yes, regardless of background, have equal access to quality education without having to sacrifice everything we have, including the kitchen sink, in order for them to get it. Where health care is not a privilege but a right. Yes, we still dream. Because it's getting to where we have to choose whether or not we will pay to go to the doctor or eat. Because we are sick. We shouldn't have to decide if we're going to eat or go to the doctor. But having to choose between taking care of ourselves over buying enough food to eat, well, there's something wrong with that picture. We still dream of a world where the voices of the marginalized are heard, where our differences are celebrated, not weaponized, where we can agree to disagree without an uprising or the threat of an insurrection. You see, it has not escaped us today that today is significant, January 20th, 2025. Championship. It's a lot going on aside from remembering and celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King, marking another page in American history. But regardless of that, we still dream and have hope for a future where our dreams don't, where we hope for a future where our hearts don't pound out of our chest every time our sons leave the house, praying for their safe return. You see, we still dream, and where our daughters won't get shot down for calling the police to their homes, for calling the police. We still dream, and where the pursuit of justice is not a partisan issue, but a shared responsibility. Yes, we still dream. We must dismantle the insidious systems that perpetuate inequality, whether it be through biased algorithms or the internet. A lot of us were in an uproar over TikTok, the distractions of social media, discriminatory hiring practices, or the disproportionate impact of policies in marginalized communities. Because you see, we still dream. We must challenge the narratives that perpetuate stereotypes and division and replace them with empathy and understanding and shared humanity, because we still dream. We still dream. Today, we call on our leaders to lead with courage. It is time out for tepid leadership, lukewarm leading that lacks passion. What does it profit the people whom you lead as they watch time and time again leaders who placate enemies to make them feel better about the state of the world and the state of the union, in large part because of their actions, their own actions, clearly aware of how it impacts our communities and neighborhoods? but we still dream. It is time out for turning a blind eye. It is time accountability cries out as we call on our leaders to enact policies that reflect the values of equity and inclusion and to prioritize the well-being of all citizens. We still dream. And we call on corporations to invest in diverse leadership. You see, they're trying to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we still dream. So we call on corporations to invest in diverse leadership to close the wage gap, because we have bills and we have things that we have to take care of. So close the wage gap and to hold themselves accountable for the social impact of their actions. Because you see, we still dream. We the people. Listen, we must not be complacent. We must use our voices. And yes, our votes, because regardless of what we think, yes, our votes, yes, they still matter. And our actions to advocate for change. We must stand in solidarity. We must stand together. It's time out for turning away from one another. We must stand in solidarity the way Dr. Martin Luther King and them all taught us to stand in solidarity. To advocate for change. With those who face oppression and work tirelessly. Continue to build bridges of understanding across our differences. We still dream. Let us not be deterred by setbacks. Many can say that we're standing in a setback in this season, but let us not be deterred by setbacks, but instead let them fuel our determination to create a more just and equitable society for us all. We still dream. For when we truly embrace the ideals of equality and justice, we will not just dream of a better tomorrow, but we will actively build it together. Yes, we still dream. We still dream. Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech remains relevant today because for as many strides that we have made, we always seem to find ourselves taking 2 steps back. You see, we're still dealing with the elements of that bad check that he talked about by way of suppression, instances of violence against our people without real redress. Let's just be honest about it. So remembering what Dr. King was trying to do then can provide us insight into what we need to consider now. We still dream. Change is constant. Regardless of whether we believe it or not, regardless of whether we admit that we see it or not, change is constant. It is ever present, ever on the horizon. But there is some truth in the saying, the more things change, you know the rest. Go on and say it. The more they remain the same. Persuasion doesn't move from A to Z swiftly in one fell swoop, but it moves methodically from A to B, B to C, D to E, and so on and so on. So in the line, I have a dream that one day, Dr. King recognized that things are not going to get better overnight. But such sentiment is needed to help us today to stay committed and continue and connected day to day until we can truly say, free at last. Let us be reminded that there is no great again for America. No, that is backward thinking. There is only a continuation of a movement forward to a greater future, and it is indeed ahead. But we must be reminded, and I'm going to my seat, but we must be reminded that in order to reach it, we must resolve today and always and tomorrow. We must resolve within us that we are now the Martins and the Malcolms. We are the Rosas and the Sojourners.